All right. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today for our second webinar of the fall, all about the SSA application process and a little bit on our Spanish visa support. I'm Jenna Luganville-Turner, and I'm joined with my colleague Nora Gear, and we're excited to bring all of this information to you all and just dive deeper into what it's like to apply to an SSA program. This is just a brief overview what we're going to be covering. We're going to kick it off with some eligibility requirements with Nora.
So if you are considering applying for an SSA program, it's important to have an understanding of what may be required as an applicant. We don't require too much of you, and it does depend a little bit on the program, but kind of some general requirements to be aware of. Depending on the program, you are required to have a 2.5 to a 3.0 GPA. Some programs are 2.5, some are 3.0. So you can reference our website or ask us if you are looking for specifics on a specific program. You also must be 18 and graduated high school for our semester programs. If you are a high school student, we do have a summer high school program. So just because you cannot do our semester programs does not mean you can't still join us with SSA. And then we also do require all students to submit a homeschool approval form, which basically just signifies that you are in good academic standing with your institution. And that's to be completed by your university's study abroad office. Another important thing to keep in mind is that in addition to SSA's requirements for our programs, you do want to verify with your home university what the study abroad requirements are. Again, sometimes you may need to have a certain GPA, you may need to be in a certain year, you may need to have taken certain classes. So it's just a great idea to have a conversation with your study abroad advisors or even your academic advisor as well, just to make sure that you're checking off all of your home institutions boxes. If you're looking to study Spanish on our programs, we have two different types of programs called Liberal Arts in Spanish or Liberal Arts in Advanced Spanish. And those also have their own language requirements that you should be aware of. For our Liberal Arts in Spanish program, you are required to have taken 1 year of elementary level college Spanish or the equivalent. And then for our Liberal Arts in Advanced Spanish program, you are required to have taken 1 year of intermediate college Spanish or the equivalent, which typically is about a B1 level on a placement test. We say the equivalent because some students who study abroad with us are not currently enrolled in college level Spanish classes, or maybe are heritage speakers. And so if a student comes to our programs under those circumstances, we can make adjustments and evaluate their level using other methods. So that's just a general overview of what makes you eligible or ineligible for an SSA program. But again, if you have any specific questions about specific programs, don't hesitate to let us know.
Thank you, Nora. Now we're going to jump into this homeschool application advice. Just a big caveat for everyone joining, depending on your institution, this process may look differently. So we really just highly recommend that you go directly to your global education study abroad office to learn about the application procedure and what's all required. That way you make sure you're following all of the policies and requirements for your homeschool before you begin to work with SSA. So again, on here, we do recommend speaking with your study abroad advisor, discuss the programs, look through academics, make sure that the program you're fitting is the best fit for you. This homeschool approval form, we're going to mention just briefly here. You'll also see it later mentioned on in the presentation, but this is an application requirement from SSA that is related to your study abroad office and our main contact there. And you just basically getting that general approval saying this student is allowed to and has followed the processes they needed to at the university. So now they're okay to apply with SSA. For some students, this is going to look a little different. So just remember that the homeschool approval form, even though it's on everyone's application, it may be completed differently depending on which institution you attend. So just being aware of that. We really recommend applying for your passport. You'll see this again later on. This is a part of, really the entire application process, but getting applied for that as soon as possible is always the best course of action. It does usually take between 6 to 8 weeks to process your passport. And so make sure that you're checking into all of that and keeping up to date with that requirement. Another big heads up is maybe some of you already have your passport, so you're thinking, okay, I'm good, check that box. But you want to make sure that your passport is also valid for a minimum of 6 months to potentially even a year for some locations after your program ends. So for example, our students that are abroad right now for fall 2025, their passport needs to be valid well through like June of 2026 because their program doesn't end until like December. So just kind of that example. And then just check into your university if you have questions about applying for your passport. Some campuses have scholarships for this. Some even have an office where you can apply for your passport directly on campus. So check into what facilities and support is available for you for that. Application deadlines are going to vary. So SSA application deadlines potentially are going to be different from the deadlines that your homeschool has. So just make sure you're checking in with all of that again. As we mentioned, every single institution is going to be different. So make sure you're relying on your specific college or university's requirements as you go through your homeschool application, if you have one. And then we just have some examples of typical application materials that many schools do require. There may be an application fee, transcripts, either unofficial or official, letter of recommendation from maybe a professor or somebody at your university, as well as a few other things that, again, may differ from university to university. But we just want you to be aware that if you are applying to an SSA program, you may also have a process at your university that you have to complete first or at the same time as ours. Now on to the actual application. So with SSA, we have a student portal where you can apply for all of our programs and really access all of that information you're going to need as you prepare to study abroad. So first you're going to go and create an account. As you'll see on the left-hand side of this slide, there's that apply button now, or apply now button in the top right of our web page. So you can click on that and create your portal account. You're going to be asked for your email. We recommend using the email you check most frequently, and also hopefully this is your university email, but we will be collecting both in the process of the application. So just use whichever one you're going to be using and know how to access. Then once you have your portal account, you can log in with that same information. You can start browsing the available programs. From there, you can select the exact program that you'd like to apply for. And so that's really nice. You can choose the term, you can search by location, type of program, different things like that. So once you choose that program, you will start your application and begin working in the portal that you see on the right-hand side here. So this is what that first view of your portal looks like, just a little bit of an overview and glance of what to expect with the application. And so again, you can see everything up there, just kind of advising you the different steps, what's all required. And so we're going to dive into the application phase 1 now. So this is what the top section of your portal application is going to look like. This is that first phase of your application before you've been accepted to SSA. You may have been approved or accepted by your university, but again, this is the SSA process that comes next. So with this process, again, applying for your passport. So I already kind of gave a nice little overview of what to expect for that, how to look for it. Again, as I mentioned, it's about 6 to 8 weeks typically for processing time, but you can pay to expedite this as well if you have a shorter timeline you're working with. And we do really want to encourage you, especially to have your passport in hand when you're applying, because if you do need a Spanish visa or a visa for any of your programs, you are going to potentially need that passport in order to apply for your visa. So again, getting a little bit ahead of myself, but just some really good things for you to be aware of. That personal and academic information is a nice overview of information that we're going to need from you to be able to make sure that you're eligible for a program, as Nora described earlier, and then also making sure that the program you're applying for fits your academics and is maybe the best fit for you. So some of the information we'll collect is like your major, minor, GPA, and anything kind of along those lines, as well as those emails and other information that we're going to need from you. That homeschool approval form I already touched on, but again, just remember that typically this is going to be sent to a contact at your institution and they will fill it out approving you to apply to SSA, but there are a few cases in which your institution may send us this approval in another way. So just know that if it looks a little different for you, if you have questions about this, reach out to us and our student services team, and we can make sure to direct you in the right, point you in the right direction. And then the transcript for pretty much all of our programs, we accept an unofficial transcript for this first phase of the application, but we do have our Barcelona programs that do require an official transcript. So if you do submit an unofficial one in this first phase, we will accept you potentially conditionally upon receiving that official transcript instead of the unofficial. Okay, so that's phase one. Now, once you've submitted everything to phase one, you're ready to be accepted by SSA. So this may take a week to 2 weeks. Usually we say around 10 days, and you will receive your admission decision, hopefully acceptance. And in most cases, I will say everyone is pretty much accepted if you meet those eligibility requirements like Nora mentioned. So this acceptance letter, this is a nice little screenshot of one of our acceptance letters for our students. There's a few things in here that might look different depending on, what institution you go to. These are going to come from our student services team. So Adriana sends all of the acceptance letters to our students going to our programs in Spain, and Rodrigo sends all of the ones going to our students in Latin America. So if you see those names, it's a good sign. In this, you're going to see the outline of what to expect with your pre-departure requirements in phase two of the application, program fees, your flights, your student visa if you require one, and then some other helpful tips from us to help you get started. With the program fees, I do just want to mention that this section is going to vary from institution to institution. So some universities, we have a different billing agreement, so you won't pay SSA directly, but you'll pay your university. And so for others, then students will pay SSA directly. It's a lot of nitty gritty that you may not need to know yet, but I just want you to know that if your section looks different than what you see on this letter, that's okay. Everybody's going to have a little bit of a different letter they get. Okay, on to the pre-departure phase. This is the bulk of your application and really what you start to dive into once you've been accepted, and really helps you prepare for your study abroad. So as you'll see at the top, it does mention that most of these documents are required within 10 days of your acceptance, with the exception of that flight or arrival information. And with this flight and arrival information, we do highly encourage that you wait to book your flight until SSA gives you the green light. We just want to make sure that this helps you book your flight at the best time and makes sure that you're set up and accepted. And, in the case of any sort of things that can come up, just waiting for us to give you that go ahead is going to be the best course of action. Some general considerations for this application is that there is a little bit of flexibility with submitting these things within 10 days if you're applying super early. So we do have some students that maybe apply a year in advance. So in that case, check in if you can't get this done right ahead of time or within that 10 days. But if you're applying right on the deadline, of course, please be mindful of that. With the payment and refund policy, again, just read through this, make sure you understand what you're responsible for. It's very similar to anything you've ever checked a box on. This housing preference questionnaire, we like to always say that, if there's anything we need to know to help set you up for success in your housing with SSA, please indicate it here. In some locations, there are options for both a host family and a residence hall. So in those locations, you will be choosing which option you prefer. There are some universities that do require the homestay, so make sure that you know that if that's your case. We can't guarantee that we can accommodate everything, but we are going to do everything we can to try. And this is a really great place for you to indicate anything you need while studying and living abroad. Know that when you get on site as well, if you do have issues, I know, again, maybe getting a little bit ahead of myself, but if there is anything with your housing that isn't quite what you thought it would be, one, give it a chance, let yourself adjust and see if there's anything that is just maybe something new and different that you've never experienced before, but also if there's anything on site that you need help with, our resident directors are there to support you and help you succeed on the entirety of your program. So just know that that's there once you are abroad with us. This health statement really just helps us help you stay healthy and succeed while you're abroad. The Spanish language placement exam is a requirement if you're doing any of the programs in Spanish. For this, the online placement exam is free. We typically recommend taking that first attempt right when you are accepted and once you're able to access this part of your application, and leave that second attempt until maybe a few weeks before your program. That way you can see how your Spanish level has changed and also see exactly where you're at when you're about to start your program. With course selection, make sure that you're choosing, courses that are going to help you with your degree, with whatever you're trying to accomplish with studying abroad. We're going to ask you for your first choices as well as some alternate choices. So again, make sure that all of those fit what you're needing when you study abroad, and refer to our pre-registration guides, both online and that you can view, within your application to for any help and for any questions you might have. Again, our student services team is really here to walk you through the entire application process. So any questions you have, you can always go to them. And so just know we're here to support you each step of the way. We don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. With your passport information, this is where we actually need your passport information. So before in that first phase, we're really just asking you to confirm if you have one, say if you're applying, whatever that may be. But now here is where we're going to need that information to help confirm, again, that everything's valid and it's going to help you get abroad. The view pay bill section, depending on the university you attend, this also may look different. So some of you may see a balance. For example, that deposit is $500. So when you first get accepted, if you have to pay that deposit, that is what you're going to see in that view pay bill section. But for some students, you may not see anything there, and that's because there's a different billing agreement set up. So just know, again, that might differ. Digital photo, we recommend just smiling nice and pretty. This is your photo that we'll use for anything with SSA, if you get an ID on your program, things like that. It just helps us have a photo of you for any of your virtual accounts that we need. The academic pledge and program conditions statement is something similar to that acknowledgement of payment. Again, read through it, know what you're responsible for, know what you're getting into, and just being aware of everything that we try to outline there to, again, set you up for success. And then that arrival information kind of goes without saying, but again, make sure you submit this at least 2 weeks prior to the start of your program, but you do have some flexibility with that. And again, don't book your flight until we say so. And then that last but not least, that speaking partners questionnaire is really just a nice questionnaire to help us get to know you a little bit better. So when you get on site and you're working in your intercambio, you're placed with some students that maybe have similar interests and can become maybe more than just a speaking partner, maybe a friend.
All right, so next we want to just go over our scholarship program with you all, because some of you all may or may not know, but SSA does offer some scholarships to students studying abroad with us. They are application based. It's a separate application. Well, it's not really an application, essentially to apply. There is an essay prompt for each of our scholarships available, and students must submit a one-page essay response according to that prompt to our email, which is info@ssabroad.org. And then on a case-by-case basis, students are selected for our scholarships. And as you can see, we have 3 scholarships available to students. We have a Spanish Heritage Speaker Scholarship, a Diversity Scholarship, and a Pell Grant Scholarship, each designed to help different types of students study abroad. Our Spanish Heritage Scholarship, our Spanish Heritage Speaker Scholarship is open to students who have a Spanish-speaking background. Maybe they grew up in a Spanish-speaking household or have heritage from a Spanish-speaking country. And so we ask that students answer a prompt to describe how connecting with their Spanish language and cultural heritage will impact their time abroad and how that will support their identity and their growth. The Diversity Scholarship is designed to assist students who are from backgrounds typically underrepresented in study abroad, which could mean a host of things. Students of diverse backgrounds, including race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic background, religion, disabilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We want to hear the diverse perspectives that students want to share. And then in that essay prompt, students need to share a moment when they've encountered a different perspective and culture and explain how that impacted their understanding of the world and of themselves and how they'll use that in their study abroad experience. The final scholarship that we have available is our Pell Grant Scholarship, designed to help students with financial need who are recipients of federal Pell Grants. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak right now. Federal Pell Grants. That's a mouthful. In addition to responding to the essay prompt, students will be required to submit a screenshot of their financial aid award letters or federal student aid documentation, something demonstrating their receipt of a federal Pell Grant. And then the prompt for that one would be to describe how studying abroad with SSA allows students to continue working toward their academic, personal, and or future goals. And so if you are eligible for any of these scholarships, we highly recommend that you apply. They are competitive. However, we do award one recipient per scholarship per term. So every fall semester, we give out scholarships every January, every spring, every summer. So it's a great opportunity to gain a little bit of money to utilize toward studying abroad. Only accepted students can receive scholarships, but students are encouraged to submit their scholarship essays as soon as they, know that they're going to study abroad with us, as soon as they've been accepted. And students can only apply for one scholarship. So if you are eligible for more than one, please keep in mind that you should just choose the scholarship for which you feel like you have the most compelling story to share. And last but not least, we do actually offer a fourth and final scholarship. We have what's called our Go Again Alumni Scholarship, which is automatically applied to students who have already studied abroad with us. So say that you had a really wonderful experience studying abroad with us in the summer and you're wanting to commit to a full semester abroad with SSA. Well, guess what? You automatically receive a discount on your program, and you receive additional funding for your time abroad. So just something to keep in mind and an incentive to join us in many of our wonderful locations around the world. But please do, again, let us know if you have any questions about these scholarships, and we highly encourage you to take advantage of them.
And one thing I'll mention outside of this as well is that when you go to our website to look at all of these scholarships, when you scroll to the bottom of the page, SSA has also shared many resources for external scholarships and other ways to fund your study abroad experience. So definitely check those out and check out, what your study abroad office on campus has as well. Okay, now, last but not least, we're going to do a pretty brief overview just of the Spanish visa process and the support that SSA provides. A big caveat that I want to share with everyone is that typically SSA offers a batch visa service for many of the consulates across the US for students studying with us. What a batch service is where you are basically authorizing SSA to apply for your visa on your behalf. This can help save you time, help save you money, and also just help kind of ensure that accuracy of your materials. But even whether you're applying with the batch visa process or independently, just know that SSA is here to support you. Now, with that batch visa process, a few requirements have changed across the board with the Spanish consulates and the BLS center that processes these. And so there are a few consulates that we are not able to offer this service currently. So please check in if you're curious about if you're eligible for this, if it's available. We hope to offer this, across the board in the future and continually moving forward, but we can't control the requirements that BLS and the consulate put forth. With this support, again, like I said, we're here to support you each step of the way. The Spanish visa process, I remember doing this as a student, doing it all on my own, and it was one of the most daunting things that I've done simply because I had never done it before. And really now that I look back on it, even with some of the complications and things I didn't understand, it really wasn't so bad. And I think if I could have had the support of a team like SSA, I would have loved that. But so one thing that we ask from our students once you're accepted, if you're accepted to a program that requires this visa, is we'll send you a Google form for you to submit. You'll submit your name, email, school name, your citizenship info, passport info, the consular district that you rely within or that you live within, and then you can opt in or out of this batch visa process with SSA. If you opt in, you will be paying SSA that $150 fee that I listed below. If you opt, and you will be applying with SSA. So that means somebody like Nora or I will go to the consulate for you, apply for your visa, and then we'll send it back to you once it's processed. Otherwise, if you're opting out, then you are saying that you will apply for this independently on your own. Of course, with our support still, that is still available to you. But just know that that's what that means. Just so I kind of explain, because not everybody knows how consulate jurisdiction works. For example, I'm going to take the lovely region that I live within. So I'm from Wisconsin. You'll see I'm one of the gray states. And our consulate is in lovely Chicago, the Windy City. And so you'll see all of the gray states surrounding there. It's quite a few. All of those states, if you reside within or if you attend a school in one of those states, you can apply with the Chicago consulate. For example, if I was from Colorado, but I study in Indiana, I could potentially apply at either of the consulates that I fall within their jurisdiction. So just know that the processes are going to differ a little bit slightly from each consulate to consulate. And so wherever you fall in that, we're going to help you kind of maybe make those best decisions as you move forward. If you will gather your materials individually for your visa, whether you're submitting via the batch process or independently, and we have a lot of materials available to kind of support you in that and help you know exactly what you need to collect. And then there are some materials that SSA provides to you, like an acceptance letter, proof of insurance, and things like that, that also are a big piece of this process. For the fees, I really want to just make it very transparent what you will be paying for whether you do the batch process or independently. So for the batch process, again, this is us applying for your visa on behalf of you. The batch process costs $150 to SSA. This is to help whoever is applying for you get there. To get to Chicago from Wisconsin, it's not free. So, just thinking of that, that's basically what you're paying for. You're paying for that support with SSA and that extra processing. Whether you're applying independently or with SSA, the following fees will be the same. So the $160 for the visa fee is something that every single person applying for a student visa to Spain has to pay. It's the same amount no matter what. And then the BLS fee is $23 approximately. This could change. BLS sets that fee forth. So just know that that's up to them. And you will pay that whether you're applying with SSA or independently. If you are doing the batch visa process, we bill that total cost to your student portal. So you don't need to worry about, sending different checks and things here or there, whatever. We try to keep it nice and all together for you. So that's a little bit about the Spanish visa process. If you have questions, our student services director, Rodrigo, is really our expert there, so we can help guide you in the right direction. But please feel free to reach out to, Nora and I as the institutional relations coordinators for your regions to make sure that you know what you're getting into. Okay, I see we have a question. We have like one more slide, so we'll get to that right at the end. Here we just wanted to share the next webinars coming up. So that was everything we had to share about the SSA application process and the Spanish visa support. Our next webinars are going to be covering why you should study in Latin America and the Latin America programs that SSA has. Nora made the coolest presentation for that, and I'm so excited to hear from our student alumni that will be joining us to share about their time in Latin America. So please join us for that if you're interested in studying in any of those locations. And then our last webinar of the fall is going to be in November on Wednesday the 19th. This is for any first-time travelers with SSA, and just basically some practical tips, tricks to help you feel comfortable once you get to the airport and are going through security, border patrol, all those things. So just really some helpful tips and tricks there. Also, you'll maybe hear some funny stories about our own travel mishaps. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Now I see we have that question, how early are students able to apply for their visa before their departure date? My understanding is that you have to apply at least like 2 months before your program starts now. This has also changed very recently, but typically students are not applying more than a few months before their departure date. For example, when I studied in Spain, I left in August and I applied in July. So that was about a month and a half between when I applied and when I left. For our students going for spring 2026, many of them will be applying starting in October and November, so that way they can have their visas ready for January when their program starts. Hopefully that answers your question, but let me know if there's anything else we can help you with. Otherwise, if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to raise your hand, send them in the chat. But if not, thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you at one of our next webinars.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Jaden.
joining. Okay, great. I think I'm going to stop the recording.